Are you looking for a Google TV powered streaming dongle? Or perhaps you're wondering the difference between the original Chromecast and the Chromecast with Google TV. If you are, you're in the right place. Hello, I'm Wanderer001 and this is my review of the aptly named Chromecast with Google TV. You're here, like I said, because you want to know, is this a streaming dongle that'll work for you? Or perhaps, should you go with the original Chromecast, which is still being sold in the Google Store? Well, I'm going to rattle off some specs at you really quick so you know the big difference between the Chromecast with Google TV and the original version 2 of the Chromecast. For starters, the most glaring is that there is a remote with the Chromecast with Google TV. Second, Chromecast here does not have Google TV. It's just a casting device. You send TV shows and what have you from your phone or tablet to this. With the Chromecast with Google TV, you can also control your smart home devices, as well as play games on Stadia. Last caveat, original Chromecast only supports 1080. Chromecast with Google TV supports 4K and Dolby Atmos. With the comparison out of the way, let's actually take a look at the Chromecast, which is what I'm going to call it from now on because Chromecast with Google TV will get redundant very quickly. You are looking at a device that is 6.4 inches in height, including the cable here, 2.4 inches wide, and less than half an inch high. On the front, you might see right there, kind of shaded, a G logo for Google. On the back, you really don't see anything except a white indicator light and a reset button. Underneath, you have to power the device. You have your USB-C. One of the things that I liked about the original Chromecast was the fact that you had this flexible HDMI cable, which that's all you have with this. It's just an HDMI and a power cable. The flexible HDMI cable allows you to not have to really worry about, do I only have a free HDMI port on the side of my TV? Because you can plug this in and then drape it and twist it around and manipulate it so that it fits. It's also very flat. Some other improvements with this particular Google Chromecast is it now supports 802.11 AC, both the 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz spectrum. So 5 gigahertz, faster speeds, shorter range, 2.4, longer range, slower speeds. Either way, both will serve you very well with the Google Chromecast here. You also have Bluetooth and Android TV OS built into the streaming dongle. Unlike the other one, which was just a receiver dongle, this actually has a OS built into it. Now, it does come in a few different colors. This is snow, sunrise, and sky. So kind of pale pink and pale blue. You might ask yourself, well, what does it matter? This sits behind my TV. I never see it. And you know what? You're absolutely right. But the other thing that makes the current Google Chromecast different is the inclusion of a remote. And that remote is going to match whatever color your Chromecast is. So keep that in mind when making orders. Taking a look at our Google Chromecast, we're on the front here. It is a very slim, lightweight remote. And I do in some cases appreciate that. However, it doesn't really offer any tactile resistance for slippage. Your hand gets a little sweaty, this is going to fly out of your hand. Another thing that you need to know, up here, this is not a touch-sensitive scroll wheel like you might see with other players. This is a tactile button pressing up, down, left, right, which you'll use for navigating TV's operating system, as well as fast forwarding and rewinding. You have a button right in the middle there. That is your select, okay, whatever you want to call it. That is going to be how you select things. We have our back button, which is kind of self-explanatory. Here, this is our Google Voice Assistant button, which you will interact with primarily when doing searches on the device, but you do have to press and hold in order for that to work. You have a home button, which will bring you back to the home. You have a mute button on the front, which I do appreciate, and you have dedicated YouTube and Netflix on the remote. You also have a power button, which will allow you to power on a TV set, which you set up during the setup process. And this is actually something that I really enjoy with a lot of new streaming devices, which is an input change option right there. If you're not on your Chromecast, when you first start the TV, you can change your input over to the Google Chromecast. And right down there, that is a microphone button so that you can use with your voice assistant. One problem that I have with it is its actual placement, because the way I hold my remote is kind of like that. And if I'm holding it like that, the microphone is covered. Food for thought. On the side here, you have your volume rocker. So not only do you get a mute button, you have a volume rocker. And then if we open up the back panel here, it is powered by 2 AAA batteries, which are included with the Google Chromecast. On the top here, you do have an IR blaster for your TV. And on the bottom, you don't have anything. One thing to consider, because this is actually a streaming device and not just a, hey, I'm going to throw something from my phone up to it, is, well, how is the setup process for it? I'm not gonna make you sit through the actual setup process for this. I will say it took me a bit longer than it had with any other streaming device that I've tested so far. And primarily, that was because the integration with Google Home. They want you to set this up using the Google Home app. I have a Google Home app. I have lots of things attached to my Google Home app, but it did not want to do the Chromecast correctly. And it took over 20 minutes. And I know that sounds like a short amount of time to some, but considering that I can throw a Roku together like that, or even my NVIDIA Shield like that, this had a bit of a learning curve. And what if I don't want to use Google Home to use the Chromecast? I do understand that I don't then get access to control my smart home devices with it, but maybe I don't want to do that. Mentioning that there's a setup process, that also means that there's a user interface, and that is because this has Android TV OS on it, and then you have a special version just for the Chromecast. So why don't we actually take a look at what the user interface looks like for the Google Chromecast.
This is the user interface for the Google Chromecast. You'll notice that across the top of the screen, there are individual tabs that are highlighted, and we start off on the For You tab. Coming down, we have a rotating ad category, we'll call it. We're going to come down. Here we have top picks for you. This is going to be based on your watch history, your likes, and things of that nature. If we select one of these, and we're going to do this older Casper movie, selecting it will show you, hey, you can watch this now on Hulu. You can watch a trailer. You can add this to your watch list. And then we have 3 other ways that you can watch. So you can watch on Hulu. You can watch on Google TV to rent it for $3.99. Or you can buy it from Google TV for $14.99. We also have the ability to say we watched it and whether we liked it or disliked it. And then coming down, you can see cast and crew. If you like Casper, you probably will like these other things, as well as comedies, musicals, Casper videos on YouTube. And that's all because it's gathering information from lots of places, not just all Google services. So if we come over to, hypothetically, Death Becomes Her, we have a trailer. We have the ability to rent, buy, watch list, or I could say, I've watched this, and it was okay back when I watched it. So that will help aid in what this is learning about me. Now, if I pop back to the home page and we come back up here, For You, and then we come down and see all the aggregated stuff. Now, I'm going to pop up to the top very quickly to show you that Casper, all the way back here at Libraries, has been added to my watch list. And then you could see that it has a certified 51% on Rotten Tomatoes. So I do appreciate that they show you that, but that it's aggregating all of this information and not just pulling from Google services. It's pulling from anything that you have hooked up to this. Primarily, you can see, for me, Disney, Hulu, and Netflix is where it's pulling in that information from. Right here, we have my apps called Your Apps. It is a carousel of all of your apps. I do like how you'll notice as I'm scrolling through these, not only do they get highlighted in white around the icon, but it also pops color behind it. I know that was one of my primary complaints about some of the other user interfaces is they weren't poppy enough to let you know what you were clicking on. If you'd like to log into one of these services, you simply press the center button on the Chromecast remote to access the channel. If you don't like where it is in your lineup here, simply press and hold the center button on the Chromecast remote, which will let you move, open, or view details. Now, the view details is for the channel app itself based on the Play Store. So you don't necessarily need to do that. But no, if you wanted to move something around, that's how you do it. Simply press and hold the button. Coming down, we have popular movies and shows. So these are things that are popular. Comedies, horror shows, trying to get you to buy something, movies set in New York City, get recommendations if you want to turn that on, action comedies, adventure action movies, sci-fi, recommended YouTube, trending, mystery. You get the idea. It's really trying to break things out for you in case you're undecided as to what you'd like to watch. The one thing I will give the Chromecast remote is by pressing the back button, you're automatically brought all the way back up to the top, which is great. Coming over to the left, you'll notice that there is a search function, and you can try saying something, because you'll notice that if I come up and select, there is a keyboard that you can hunt and peck, but that's not what Google's good for. Hypothetically, I could search for Mark Hamill, and you do that by pressing and holding the Google Assistant button on the remote. And here it'll bring up things that he's in, people also searched for, and a little brief history on Mark Hamill. And you could do that for people, shows, movies. I'm going to pop back over to the For You section and move over to the Live section. So this, as you can see right there, says Free Live TV. And you could come through here and pick and choose from a selection of things that Chromecast is pulling in. This is the new soup du jour based on what other streaming services are doing as well. If you happen to have something like a Pluto TV, which I pulled in, it will actually add those channels to the live TV section here. It's interesting. Keep in mind, anything that's in here is going to be ad supported. Moving over to the right, you have movies. And again, it's going to pull in from those streaming services that you've attached to your Chromecast. Popular movies, again, it's going to break this out into individual genres to try and get you to actually watch something. For those that are indecisive and don't know exactly what they want to watch, maybe they want to watch an 80s movie. And here's just a selection of 80s movies that you can pick from. We're going to go all the way back up to the top. Coming over to shows, it's going to be very similar. Top billing shows, popular shows, new shows, trending shows. Again, always pulling from the channels that you've added. Notice right here, first one, HBO Max, Apple TV, Hulu, Apple TV, Disney Plus. So anything that you've got on your Chromecast, it's going to aggregate a lot of that data and present it to you. I'm going to select back because that was our shows. Moving over to apps. Well, this is how you can add applications. Here are some selected apps that it would like you to download. Here are your apps. And if we scroll all the way to the end, you can actually see all of your apps, and anything below that white line there doesn't actually show up in that initial page. So if you want any of these to be brought up, simply press and hold. And just like before, we select move, and we're brought an arrow where we can now place that. Selecting the center OK button will put it into place, and we'll hit back because that will move Pluto in my app selection tray. Coming down, we have a search for apps and games. Simply press and hold your voice assistant on the remote, and you could start searching. You can also search for an app based on category, entertainment, music, etc. Apps from other devices. So here we've got Nest, which is on my phone. This is on my Roku. This is also on my Roku. Featured, well, if you want TikTok on there, you can put it there. Recommended, so Stadia, NPR. Again, this is based on your watch history and everything else that Google knows about you. And then some other subcategories to try and get you to put extra things on. So staying fit and mindful, learning something, staying informed. We're going to select back and bring us all the way back up to the top and come over to library. Now, library is a mixed bag for me because watch list, I don't remember adding Tiger Bunny or Tiger Bunny to a watch list. And I would say the same goes for these Harry Potters. I don't recall actually adding them anywhere, but it's pulling in that data from somewhere. Purchase movies, these are actually through my Movies Anywhere, which does include YouTube or Google or whatever they're calling their iteration of a streaming service or video catalog. And then down here, purchase, yes, reboot. I do remember purchasing, selecting back and coming up. You'll see over in the right-hand corner, might actually be a little hard to see, is your account. Because my account icon is actually black. That's why it's kind of blacked out. We can select here and add another account so you can have multiple accounts for your Chromecast. If I come down and over to the right, well, here you're seeing the filming time. If I select this, that will actually turn on a screensaver for your Chromecast. I'm going to select back and come over to my settings again and down. You'll notice that you can add your watch list here, but we're going to pop into the settings because you want to know some of the things that you can do. Right now, we have our network settings, so you can come over and turn Wi-Fi on or off. You can look for a new network. You can see them all. You can add a new network, and you can turn on scanning always available, meaning it's constantly scanning for new networks. I have that turned off. I want to save some power and not have the Chromecast constantly looking for new networks. Accounts and sign in, not going to show you that because there's just a lot of personal information, a little hard to get around. But from there, you can actually add a child's profile directly to the Chromecast. Privacy, as you might imagine, lots of privacy stuff. You've got your location services. I have that turned off. User diagnostic, also have that off. Don't want to give Google any more information than they already need. You've got your ads, so you can manage your ad stuff, which is going to bring you to a website, which is going to bring up a disclaimer. Google Assistant, do you want to personalize? Do you want to turn safe search on? I have them both off. Payment for purchases, you could have that information in there. App permissions, well, it's going to let you know all of the stuff that it has access to. Special app access, it's going to let you know, hey, these things have access to specific areas and security restrictions. There's a lot to go through there, and you'll notice for a lot of it, I turned a lot of the stuff off. That's just my personal opinion. You don't have to do that, but Google already grabs a lot of data on you. I thought I didn't want to give them extra data to work with, but part of Google Chromecast and any Google product, the more they know about you, the better it is. Coming down, sounds and displays. Selecting over, we've got our HDMI CEC. I have that turned on. Resolution, on the particular TV I have it plugged into, 1080/60 is the best I can do. You've got dynamic range. Again, if your TV supports it. Advanced display settings, allow game mode. I have that turned on, even though I really don't plan to play games with the Chromecast. System sounds, you could turn that on and off if you don't want to hear the effects from your Chromecast. Surround sound, on or off. And advanced sound settings. Selecting this, surround sound formatting, I have automatic, or you could choose manual if you really want to get into the nit and gritty and you know what you're doing. I recommend leaving that on automatic if you are not an audiophile. Those were our display and sounds. Coming down, we have our apps. We already touched on this in another location, so we don't have to go back in here. System. This will allow us to access a lot of extra things. So here we have accessibility. As you might imagine, you have captioning. You're going to have lots of options for captioning. Language, text size, text color, background. This is where you'd find that. You have the ability to turn high contrast on and off. Text to speech. What would you like to use? Accessibility shortcuts. Talkback, which is you press a button, it tells you what that button was. Switch access, single accessibility. They're there, and you know where to look for them if you're looking. About, as you might imagine, that's going to give you information about the Chromecast. Here we have system update. So I'm telling it to check if there's any updates for the Chromecast, and it lets you know the last successful check. Device name, do you want to change that? Do you want to factory reset your Chromecast? Up there we had status, which gives a lot of personal information and information about the Chromecast I have, so we're not going to show that. Legal information, right there. Model, it's letting you know, Chromecast. What version of Android TV OS do you have? The security level or security patch for your Android TV OS. Kernel, Android TV build, Netflix information, date and time. You can set it for automatic, set the time zone, and whether you want military time or not. Language, as you might imagine, you can select your language. Keyboard, same thing with keyboard. You've got current, which is the included Gboard. You've got Gboard settings, so you can come through there. Privacy, information, manage keyboard. So if you've got other keyboards installed, because this is an Android device, you can sort through them there. Right now we have internal shared storage, total space of 4.4 gigs. And here, if we come down, it will show us free up space, which will allow you to, in my case, clear the cache and uninstall apps, which will save me 1.17 gigs. Ambient mode. So this is what to do when it's idling. You can start now, which I'm not going to. You could select your Google Photos. You can select Art Gallery, and over there, it will show you different options of art. You have experimental, which is a low bandwidth mode. You've got weather, time, device information, personal photo data, which I'm going to hide should I ever choose to do that. Portrait Google Photos, personal photo curation, and slideshow speed. So how quickly will it progress through those? We have energy saver, so it turns off the display after 30 minutes. You can come over and change that to never or 15 minutes being the shortest amount. You've got your cast. So you've got my group, and then let others control the cast always, while casting, and never. So just because this is a Chromecast that has a remote does not mean you need to use the remote at all times. And then restart the device. Selecting back, that brings us to remotes and accessories. So here you can pair an additional remote or a new remote. And then here is my Chromecast remote. Battery levels are good. It has Bluetooth connectivity, shows you the firmware. I can rename this if I want, and I can forget this device if I want. I'm going to select back. Down here, we can set up remote buttons. So I can add a TV. So right here, I can add a different device. This is my LG TV in my living room, but we can control the volume, control the power, and then input. So you can actually change your input using your remote, which is a great feature to have, I will admit. And then down here, you have help and feedback. And we're going to come back because those were all of our settings for the Google Chromecast.
So there you have the interesting Android TV operating system for the Chromecast. Now, there are some other things that I like to consider when I'm looking at a streaming device, and that is power usage. Because, well, when you live in a smart home or you have a lot of smart tech, power starts to add up, so every little bit counts. In this case, the Google Chromecast here uses 1.2 watts of power when idling. When streaming an HD Netflix video, it uses 3 watts of power. All things considered, that actually isn't terrible for the size of this device. Now, one of the things that I wish Google would have kept was the magnetic backing, because this makes an excellent portable device for traveling. However, with a floppy HDMI cable, it could get damaged in transit. Now, I did neglect to mention that the Chromecast does come with its own wall wart, but you do have a USB-A style power port that you could plug into the back of your TV set if you have a free slot. Or you can use the power cable. It is a USB to USB-C style cable, and it is rather long, so you're not gonna really have any trouble placing the Chromecast. So for me, you've heard me mention a few different streaming options. Where does the Chromecast fit? Here's the bottom line. Chromecast currently is $50. If you buy it from the Google store, 9 times out of 10, they'll have some sort of sale where they'll bundle in a streaming service. In my case, I got 6 months worth of Netflix plus this. So that actually brought down the price of the Chromecast to $4 and then 6 months worth of Netflix. Can't beat that. Right now, I think it's HBO Max. The Google Chromecast is definitely for those who like Android TV or are looking for something slightly more powerful than a Roku, but are not yet looking to upgrade to an Apple TV or an NVIDIA Shield. An NVIDIA Shield is definitely a more powerful device, but is also a lot more expensive. There is something similar to this if you look at the TiVo dongle, which I'll have over there in the corner, which has a similar price point and feel. This has a newer chipset, meaning it's going to be a little faster. If you're in the Stadia world at all, this is the only way that you're going to be able to stream Stadia on your TV. This is going to be a niche type of streaming device. However, for the dedicated few who want to play games, who really like the Android TV experience, Google Chromecast with Google TV could be what you're looking for. For me, I definitely think I will keep this in my travel bag because it's nice to have a remote when you want to just kind of look through your streaming services and not have to pull out a phone. With that being said, I have been Wanderer001. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the area below. And as always, thanks for watching.
If you found this video helpful, consider giving it a like, as that will help other people find the video as well. If you like what I'm doing here, you can always help fuel the next review by buying me a coffee, link in the description below. Last but not least, if you want to be notified when I upload a new video, you know what to do.